What's going on, y'all? Taylor here with y'all 106.7, broadcasting from the Red Wing Shoe Studio. We have a very special guest today, singer, songwriter, entertainer, actor, nothing he can't do, Mr. Charles Esten. Welcome to y'all.
Well, hello, Taylor. Thank you for having me.
We're very excited to have you here today.
Oh, y'all are so kind.
But Chip, what your friends and family call you.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and we're friends now, so you can call me Chip.
Hey, your daughter's name is Taylor, so it's easy to remember for you.
Yeah, it's like family here. Good.
Did you have a good Christmas?
Oh, we had an amazing Christmas. I'm raised in Virginia, Northern Virginia, and Alexandria, Virginia. Whenever I tell any of the artists here, Alexandria, they always go, the Birchmere, because it's a place that so many of them played. And I'm real fortunate. I get to play there every time I go home for the holidays.
Wow.
So it's not just being around those friends and family, but getting to go play some of that music. It was actually the last date of the Love Aint Pretty 2024 tour, and you want to end up at home.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I did, yeah.
Virginia's for lovers, they say.
Oh, that was the slogan for many years with the bumper sticker, and I took that to heart when I was young.
Oh, yeah. Well, Love Aint Pretty. I mean, you're starting the year off hot. You have a show at Chiefs on Broadway, January 24th, celebrating the deluxe edition of Love Aint Pretty, which...
Yeah, we got the vinyl finally came out. I mean, finally vinyl. And it's a thrill for me. I mean, this is my debut album at my age, which is pretty amazing. But once I got back here to Nashville, I say I got back here, I was brought here for the show in Nashville. Until then, I had been always wanting to come here, tried again and again, but life kept getting in the way, and I finally had almost given up. And then I got this script for the show in Nashville, and not only did it open up that door for that show, but so many other musical doors, ultimately ending up with this thing that I'm probably the most proud of.
And what does it feel like to hold it? Finally, it's here.
Well, you said it's kind of heavy there, right? Yeah, well, to me, that's what it felt like. Honestly, you know, the album came out about a year ago. I think it was January 26th, a year ago. This will be a year anniversary, and the vinyl comes out, which I like so much. And believe me, when it came out and it's out there to stream and people can, and when that happens, I was thrilled. And that I thought that felt real. But when I saw them literally dropping vinyl and pressing it into this disc, and then I put that needle down onto it, and I carry that big album in my hand. When I was young, that's what was real, was all of that, all that physical activity you do and now you press a button. And so it was. It's still a real thrill for me. That's something I'm very proud of. It's
such a great album, and kind of the whole album is about love, the highs and the lows of it. One of my favorites is Somewhere in the Sunshine. I mean, they're all great, but there's just something about that song that I love. And then I saw Back in My Life was written with Marcus Hummon, who was in here recently as well. He's a great writer.
Marcus is the best. And I got to be honest, first of all, I've been a fan of his for a while, and his son, Levi. But I showed up to that right, and we both, Brian Todd and I did. And Marcus, as he does, he had a verse, he had a chorus, he had a whole lot of that song there. And I was immediately like, oh, man, that is so good, and I love it so much. I was glad in that second verse to bring a bunch to the second verse, and therefore you start to feel like it's yours a little bit. And he's wide open for that too. That song called Back in My Life Again, which I love. It's like a reverse country song because the girl comes back. And so that's a lot of fun to do that one. And I remember the line I put in there. It says, I don't cry all night, don't pace the floor, don't hang around them bars no more. Stop talking you down to all your friends. You're back in my life again. So, that's a fun one, and that's because of Marcus.
Do you have a favorite from the album? Another one I love is Another Song About You, because it's a sad song, but it's an upbeat melody, which I love a sad song.
I'm the same way. There's a lot of songs like that. I'll try to think of one now if I can, but where if you listen to the lyrics, you go, oh, wait. That is a very sad song. It's up-tempo, and that's what I liked a lot about this one. It's a guy who, and this happens in Nashville, you go to these songwriters and you see this friend of yours, and he's still writing those sad songs because that girl just leveled him, or vice versa. I've written some great female writers who are still in that place, and you're in that place till you're not in that place anymore. So they keep writing their songs about this person that they don't want to think about anymore, and it sort of drives you a little bit crazy. And he's sick of writing sad songs. So he's going to write this up-tempo song, but it turns out to be the saddest one of all.
It's so great.
Thank you.
But you also have an extended version, right? Sara Evans, Keb Mo.
Well, that's the beauty of the vinyl. We didn't just want to say, hey, here it is on vinyl. You can go get all this to stream. We wanted to have some special things on the vinyl. And two great friends who I just was a fan of for long before I met them were Keb Mo and Sara Evans, and they both agreed to jump on two of these songs. Keb jumped on Maybe I'm All Right, which was they're all my children. I love them all. And then Sara jumped on In a Bar Somewhere. In a Bar Somewhere is a memory of that moment. I mean, every great love affair has that one night where everything was perfect. And this is that song. And it works very much when it was just me singing it in a bar somewhere. We're still laughing and dancing, not thinking about what's going to happen. Yeah. So it's like you don't know what's coming, so you're blissfully ignorant. But when the two of us sang it together, then you picture they're not together. They're at these distance, but they're both remembering that one night when it could have been perfect. Mm-hmm. So I'm real honored to have both of them on this album because they are both incredibly talented, legit, and also extremely kind people, which means a lot to me. And then, we stuck a bunch of, not only a couple demos, the demo for Back in My Life Again, it just had a certain pop. And Marshall Altman loved it as well. And that Marshall Altman was my producer on this album, and we definitely changed everything up, and I'm glad that we did. You can't live exactly in that demo place, but some of these demos stayed with me. So I thought I'll put them on the vinyl, and then the people get to hear what it feels like when you're first shaping it. But even further back than that, one of my favorite things is when you're done writing a song here in Nashville or anywhere else, often you take your phone, you put it in the middle of the table, you hit record, and the three of you are there, the two, the four of you, how many are there? You sit and you play your song for the first time, and you try to get a work tape so that you know what you're aiming at later, so you don't just forget the special details about it. So I stuck a couple work tapes on this vinyl as well. So this is a little bit of a journey into what this whole album was about.
And that's so special because sometimes the demo and the work tape is the most honest lyric, vocal performance that you're going to get.
There's a reason. There's a thing called demoitis in this town where you work so hard and you never really get to where the magic was on the demo. I don't think we had that. I think we captured things the way they were meant to be for this whole album. But these demos stayed with me. And so I thought, why don't we let it stay with them as well? This is just it's getting cold right now. And when this thing comes out end of January 25th or 6th or something like that, there will be a Sunday, or maybe we get snowed in like a Wednesday someday. You got a turntable. Spend some time with this thing.
Put it on. Pour a glass of whiskey.
Exactly. That's relax. The beauty. Yeah. Maybe more than one. Yeah. Taylor, you don't know. It's a long album.
Hey, I love it. And you have some songs with the Nashville cast on there, right?
Well, I do because I'm so fortunate. Most shows when they do a reunion, like the show in Nashville. We haven't done a televised reunion. I don't know that we ever will. I can't imagine how we would. It ended really perfectly right there at the Ryman Auditorium. We're so blessed because when you want to go back and dive into that world, you can go stream it, but you can also go listen to so much of that great music. And so many people do that. I still get to do some touring with my friends, Claire Bowen, who played my niece Scarlett, and Jonathan Jackson, who played Avery, Sam Palladio played Gunnar, and people still are so tied to these songs. So we go on the road, we play these songs. And they heard this song of mine called Down the Road, which is the second to last on the album. And it's a great goodbye song. It's like, you don't know the great things that are coming for you down the road, and you're rocking, and you say, we'll see y'all down the road, and you say goodnight. Yeah. And so we all thought maybe we could end with that one. Although it's not a Nashville song, it's got that Nashville philosophy and mentality of hang in there. Things could get great. And so we ended with it, and I was just so blown away by the recording. I believe it was in London, and my goodness, the band is white hot. First of all, the band is led by a guy named Colin Linden, who was all over the show Nashville, because when you heard Deacon sing, that was me singing, Deacon Claiborne. When you heard Deacon Claiborne play guitar, that was Colin. He is just an absolutely incredible musician. And so he would not only play that in the studio, but then he would teach these fat fingers of mine which strings to go to, how to play it, so I could play it for the camera. And I would play along with him. We would actually, you could hear it in the room where we were recording, but I'd have either a little earplug or you'd hear it on a monitor. So it makes sense that we get to tour with him, and he leads the whole thing. You can hear his guitar all over this thing. I play along with him. I'm grateful too. But I was so happy to have that live concert performance. That's the one live concert performance on the album, and I'm grateful for it.
That's so cool. And Nashville, how often do you go around town and get called Deacon?
Oh, well, it happens a lot. But the closer I am to Broadway and the closer it is to midnight, is the more people will call me Deacon, and they'll holler it out. And look, I love it. If I'm honest, I'm very, very happy. That's the guy that brought me here, and I'm so grateful for that show and for the people that brought me here, including Callie Curry, the great creator of that show, and Steve Buchanan, who had the first idea of a show like that. And I don't really shy away from that. I go out to all the places. We had my wife's family came here for Thanksgiving, and not only did we do that turkey trot starting over at the stadium that's not long for this world, but we also ended up at Roberts and Tootsie's, and we went to the Bourbon Street Blues and Boogie Bar over on Printers. We did the do, and Nashville took good care of us, and people are nothing but kind, and they seem to have not only good memories of that show, but meaningful memories, because we dealt with so many issues and things that matter to the heart. Deacon went through so much that it seems to be a connecting point to a lot of people. They'll come up to me and they'll say, my dad had addiction issues, or they'll say, my mom had cancer, or, I lost my wife. They say these hard, true things in their life that somehow this show we did and the music from it somehow blessed them a little bit. So they're like I say, connected a little bit deeper than I just watched it and it was fun. And that's what I was hoping to evoke with this album, honestly. Once you get to that place where people come up to you and tell you that a life that's good matters, or Sanctuary, these are a couple songs from Nashville, matters, you can do songs that don't quote unquote matter and are fun, and I definitely do those, and there's some on this, but I live in that world of something that hurts a little but helps a lot.
You play that role so well. I'm such an empath when I watch TV shows. So if the character's crying, I'm crying. And anytime you were upset, I was upset. I mean, it's such a powerful show, and it's got almost like a cult following because people still watch it. I still watch it on reruns. Mindy, I know that you love that show.
Oh, man, that is sweet. That is really nice.
But it's the perfect blend of you acting and singing, because you got to, your first love is music, and you got to
that's what I started
combine both of those
It's
together.
incredible to me as I look back at it. I sometimes feel like you don't know what life is preparing you for. We think we know. We're only looking at the backside of the tapestry that God is weaving, and someday he flips it over and you go, I always felt like I was wandering around doing all these things, and I didn't know how they came together. In college, I was the lead singer in a band, and I wrote some songs, but then I didn't. Hootie lost all his blowfish. They went off to be doctors and lawyers and stuff. So I've had some friends that have gone to do acting in L.A. I started doing that. I played Buddy Holly in a live musical, so I'm standing on stage doing that. That's where I get Whose Line Is It Anyway, where I do all the improv. So all these things that I'm doing my whole life, but I can never see any real coherent reason for them all. When I finally came to Nashville, it was like a real aha moment. Like I'd emptied my pockets of all these scraps of colored cardboard, and they fit together in this beautiful puzzle that said Nashville. And ever since then, my life has absolutely changed, and I've gotten to do incredible things because of that, like Outerbanks, and I've got Homestead coming up. But music has always been that through line.
All about God's timing.
Amen. Yeah, my mom says there's no coincidences, there's God incidences. And there's a whole lot of that on this album. The second song is A Little Right Now. And a little what? Well, it says, help me, Lord, and show me how to have the kind of faith that I once found. Because I could sure use a little right now. Sometimes, faith is harder than others. And so that's what that's dealing with, because I think in the Bible it says it only takes a little to ask for more, and you get a whole lot more then.
I saw a video where you said you're not that poetic, flowery writer because you're an actor. You kind of just want the line to be what it is.
Yeah,
when you're songwriting.
Absolutely. Frequently in a songwriting session, I'll be sitting there with everybody, and if you get a little lost, you sometimes are going, what are we saying? What are we saying? And I literally say, okay, what are we saying here? And I'll start reading the lyrics from the beginning. And if it doesn't sound like somebody would, the way somebody would talk, man, you can leave it in there. You can. I love poetic rock lyrics or Dylan-esque things, but that's a genius going on right there. I just want to say what I want to say, and if it doesn't sound like it would come out of my mouth, that's part of being an actor too. There were some lines in Nashville where I would go to them and go, "Can I just say this instead? That doesn't sound like it. It's. I can say that, but I think it'll sound more like me." There was one time where Deacon was up fixing his gutter, and Avery came by, and they were talking, and Avery goes, "Oh, I didn't think you liked me." And Deacon says, "Oh, I like you fine." And then later, Scarlett says, you never liked Avery. And Deacon says, fine, I don't like him. This is first season. I called up the writers and I go, look, I don't know much about this guy yet, but I know this. He says what he means and he means what he says. So either he likes him or he doesn't like him. He's not going to say both. He's not two-faced. I said, but more than that, like him, don't like? I said, what am I, in middle school? You know, what am I supposed to do? Hand him a balloon every time I see him? And I'll be daggone, but when the script came back, Deacon says to Scarlett, what am I supposed to do? Hand him a damn balloon every time I see him?
Oh, that's great.
And so they just took this real thing that I really meant and really said, and they made it work. And I'm always trying to do that with the song. And hopefully it works.
And I remember that episode. Do you have like a ritual or routine that you do when you're trying to step into a new character? Like, how do you just completely transform and separate Chip from the character?
It's a million things. It's a million things, including small things like the wardrobe. Wardrobe matters so much. That's why, you know, we are out here like the tip of the spear that everybody sees. We're the ones that get to stand in that spotlight when the camera finally shines. But there's so many people that did so much along the way. When they started dressing me in that Deacon denim, that Canadian tuxedo, and those boots. By the way, I have the boots that I wore all 6 seasons as Deacon. When I put them on, I feel a little more Deacon-y.
Same pair of boots.
Yeah, what's that?
It was the same pair of boots?
Same pair of boots, unless
okay.
you went to a fancy red carpet, which Deacon didn't care much for.
Yeah.
But most of the time, he would be in those same boots. And another thing is, there's a leather chair that I bought from Deacon's original house, the house that he was, which is, by the way, is on Bosco Bell. So it's right around near Nissan. I bought that at the very end, and I said, I want that, because I sat in that so many times. And I got to speak with the set decorator who says, we got that chair on purpose because we didn't think Deacon would, you know, some chairs perch you up, like this one. I'm up high, and I'm talking, and I'm leaning forward. I look like I've had some coffee. Deacon didn't live that kind of life. Deacon, this chair, when you sat in it, it just sort of ate you up like this, and your feet were out in front of you, and you're laying like that. And so when I put that denim on and I sat in that chair, and the great Connie Britton walked in, said something, and left, you felt a little bit like Deacon. So there's so much of that. And
every little detail
matters. And that's why you're blessed. You're really blessed when you walk into a show that you can tell cares about the truth, that is stealing from the truth. There's many people that would come up to me and go, y'all got like spies in this town, because that stuff hits real. Now, I know we would do some crazy stuff too, that, you know, part of being on network television, it's got to go a little nuts, but I've lived in this town a while now. Some crazy things go on.
Yeah.
But the reality of whenever you can grab something truthful or say something truthful, and constantly they were doing that. My buddy Steve Mandel in the band Six Wire, incredible band, and he says that he was getting a fitting when they were just getting started for Nashville. And the wardrobe mistress, Susie, said, let me see that shirt tucked in. And Steve said, tucked in? And she said, you wouldn't tuck it in? Because Steve's been in a band in Nashville for a long, long time. And he goes, no, we wouldn't tuck it in. She goes, then don't tuck it in. She was stealing from what was instead of forcing a look on this show, taking what was.
Yeah, I love it. And I have a question for you, moving on. Kook or Pogue?
Say it again?
Are you a kook or Pogue?
We've moved to Outerbanks, folks. Kook or Pogue? Well, what I generally tell folks is my recommendation is you have the heart of a Pogue and have the wallet of a kook. So if you can hang on to that, and that's everybody's, by the way, in music, that's the hard thing, because you want to write with the heart of a Pogue. I mean, Springsteen has the heart of a Pogue, right? But I could, trust me, he's got the wallet of the kookiest kook. So the hard part is hanging on to that desire, that need, that passion, that wildness, even when things get a little more comfortable.
We always have a soft spot for Ward Cameron, because, you know, you had that a little bit of an edge to you, but at the end, you're just a good guy who loves his family and went down for his family.
Well,
at the end.
That's what happened in the end, but along the way, it's pushing it to call him a good guy. But that's why I think they brought me in. They saw, they had seen, I'd worked with these guys before, the Pate brothers, Jonas and Josh Pate, and Shannon Burke were the 3 creators, and they called me up and said, we want you to come play the dad on this sort of real young adult adventure. And he goes, it starts off with the first 4 episodes, you're just pretty much a normal dad. And that's what I think Deacon came in handy. They thought, Deacon in those later episodes was raising his daughters and just being a good dad. And they thought that might throw people through, because they said after 4, it goes sideways real quick. And it really did. And to me, the challenge or the fun part of it was not to play a bad guy who's just bad for bad's sake, twirling the mustache and raising the eyebrow, but to play a human being, a man he was a pogue at one point. He grew up a pogue, so he gets all this stuff. And he's so desperate to hold on to it that he just doesn't know when to back down. He just keeps pushing his chips in and covering up and pushing his chips. And all the way he keeps telling himself, it's for my family, it's for my daughter. And he would do anything for Sara and for Rafe and for Wheezy. That's why it's sort of blessed. Spoiler alert, by the way, cover your ears if you're not caught up, but you should be by now. When it was time for Ward to go, and I knew he couldn't stay forever. When you're the bad guy, you can't walk into every episode like, hey, y'all, after a while, you're not that bad if you can hang around that long. But when it turned out that he actually did sacrifice himself for Sara, that in the end, he did do it for that reason. Throughout all the seasons I was on it, you always saw how conflicted he was. He would do something bad, and you could see it just weigh on him. A little piece of him would die. What moves me the most is when he looks at Sara and he knows what he's going to do. It's the first moment in all the seasons I was on where he looks truly at peace, where his face is like, yeah, this is the right thing. Mm-hmm. And beautifully, Madeline Klein looks back and like, no. Like in that moment, although she's not been liking her father very much for a long time, she understands and she's doesn't want it. Mm-hmm. But so I thought it was moving. It's hard to make people care when you're a bad guy, especially about when you die. So that people are conflicted and end up caring is a beautiful thing.
You did a great job. I cried during that episode too. Like I said, I'm an empath. I can't hardly watch nothing without crying. But
Taylor, keep it together.
I know. It was just so great.
That's so kind.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding. Yeah. You are, by the way, my target audience for this album. I'm an empath. I say that myself, and I think you have to be a good actor or to be a good writer. You have to be able to look at somebody else's. You can write your own situation, but I didn't go through the things that Deacon did. Mm-hmm. But I knew folks that had. And so you would have to use that empathetic part of yourself to go, all right, what would I feel like? How would I react in this situation? Mm-hmm. And the same is true with the song. Not everything in that have I lived, but I've been near folks who have. So that empath comes through.
And storytelling. Well, let's talk about your tour, because you just did your first headlining tour and a USO tour. Tell me about that.
Well, it was very special because I've toured before, but never like in a form where you're touring your album, where you're going out, these are these songs, and you get out there and the audience knows them and they're singing them back to you. Even like we were touring in Europe, and I was in Oslo in this beautiful venue. It was a former church, all stone and candlelight, and you're going there and you have no idea if anybody's going to know or care or show up. And we get there and there's people there and they know every word. So it's incredibly rewarding. I do this on a different level just as an independent artist. I'm fortunate for the little bit of fame I have from television. But in terms of the music, I'm the consummate outsider here. I'm not being played on the radio all the place, everywhere. So it's mostly just who finds out and who tells their friends and shares it with somebody else. So when that happens, I think it's even more special, and I'm incredibly grateful for all of it. Mm-hmm. Another big part of it is that my wife, Patty, is a huge part of all of this. We met when we were juniors in college, and that's 38 years ago, Taylor. And we have been married 33 years. And there was a time when we were raising the kids that I would go do this touring, and she was home raising the kids, and I'd come back and forth. Because I've toured with improv. Like when I did Who's Line, I would go on the road with that. Or even when I was touring with the Nashville show or doing some shows on my own, she wasn't able to come. And when we became empty nesters, there's a whole lot of that broke our hearts. Like, oh, who are we now? Because mostly you think of yourself as a parent once you are. But then we sort of looked at each other and was like, wait a second, I remember you. You're fun. Yeah. Let's go do this. So off we go out onto the road. And you listen to songs in this, you can hear that are absolutely about her, like Candlelight or Make You Happy. And so she's definitely the inspiration behind so much of this. But honestly, she's the perspiration behind so much of this. I'm right here right now talking about it with you. She's back on a laptop at our home making other things happen for me and making it all work. So to get to do this hand in hand and side by side is very, very special.
Oh, yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work, they say.
It absolutely does. If anybody really knows me, they know I know my strengths, and you were very kind in the introduction. But believe me, there's a whole lot that I can't do. And we just sort of happen to, was it Jerry Maguire, you complete me type of a thing? And I think it works both ways. Her life is a little more adventurous and wild and seat of the pants because of me. And she keeps the whole thing grounded and working and showing up on time because of her.
Well, where can people get this album when it does drop?
Well, first of all, the best, quickest place is charlesesten.com. You can go and either get this, the vinyl deluxe is the one that I told you. It's a double album, and it's got those extra things on it. But then there's also the collectible edition, too, the sort of the limited edition. And I was showing you a little bit earlier, when you pull that album out, the normal black vinyl, which is the normal one we were talking about, this has a very fascinating sort of deep red that matches the sort of velvet chair on the cover of the album. Yeah. And we're so grateful to people at Vinyl Lab who found this color for us. They had a bright red candy apple that I was just never happy with. And they said, well, we also have this one that is made from recycled vinyl. Like, there's a whole lot of trimming off, you would imagine, when you're making it up. And all these other pieces, mix and matches, and it came out to be just... I said there's no coincidences, there's God incidences. It's the color of that chair on the front.
It matches.
So,
yeah.
Exactly. So those will be signed and have a few special things to their own. But you can pre-order it right now, and it comes out just about the same time as I go on stage at Chiefs.
Perfect timing.
On the 24th. Yeah.
And you can get tickets to that at chiefsonbroadway.com. Now, we are Y'all 106.7, so we love to ask who your musical influences were.
Well, it comes from a couple departments. My father was very formative for me because he listened to that early country music. And not only that, we would drive around and he would play. We found this cassette tape collection, like 3 tape, called 50 Golden Years of Country Music. And this is the mid-'70s we were listening to this. So this started back at Jimmy Rogers and Hank Williams. And it just went all the way through, you could hear Minnie Pearl talking about the great stories. So not only did it play these songs, but it told these stories throughout. And Roy Acuff and on and on. And then later, of course, it became Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard. And my dad, back in the 80s, I think, it was that incredible thing that John Travolta ignited 2 completely separate booms in music. Everybody really thinks about the disco one. I was more down for the other one, which was the country music boom from Urban Cowboy. That country was always there, and 80s country was fantastic, but it really crossed over with that. And so not only that, but of course, Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. There's a whole lot of Waylon in what I do, I would like to think. I know influence. I'm not comparing myself. And then that's so much of the country. And then, of course, I remember early on going to my friend's house and seeing this album, Darkness on the Edge of Town, and Tom Petty albums. But the one that really, I would say, influenced this one a whole lot was Born to Run. I can remember so much just, as an actor now, it occurs to me that so many albums to me are like movies. Like the song is the scene. Mm-hmm. And songs more and more are getting like a quick TikTok scene. Maybe it's a 2-minute song or a 152 or something. But you used to have a whole scene. Now, the order you put these scenes in a movie, like if you're Quentin Tarantino, you put them all backwards and it sends you in this other way. Or you just tell this story slowly, it unravels. And we, as the listener, fill in the gaps between it. And I remember not only listening to Born to Run like that, but just listening to those lyrics. And sometimes your influences send you to their influences. From there, I went back to Dylan more and things like the Van Morrison, things like that, and some of the soulful things that Springsteen listened to. So that's a whole lot of it. And then along the way, I'd be lying if I didn't say, honestly, right up front was what you're doing, was radio, was being in the car listening to that radio station. And when I was real young, there was a whole lot of one-hit wonders. It was just post-Beatles, just pre-Springsteen, and Michael Jackson really kicking in. And you would hear a band that maybe you'd hear 1 or 2 songs from, but damn, that song was good and stayed with you to this day. So that was beautiful.
Love that. What are you going to play for us today? A song off the album, maybe?
Let me think. I'm an improviser. I should probably do that, right?
We'd love it. No pressure.
I would love to play a song off the album. Let's do that.
All right. Y'all get this amazing vinyl copy of Love Ain't Pretty and check out Charles at Chiefs on Broadway, January 24th. We're about to get a special performance. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Taylor. Appreciate you. Appreciate y'all.